Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, someone has their mic on, so I'm unable to.
Can you please mute your microphone? So can you please mute your microphone?
Yes, okay, I'll wait. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so we're looking at the case of Zambia. So in Zambia, we have really made strides to ensure that women are empowered in different sectors. And one of them is the political arena. Just like I mentioned, in the last 5 to 7 years, we've had more women stepping up as leaders in the political arena, and one of them being the vice president of the country. And also this year, we are having our general elections. Okay, and we have seen that the big parties of the country are adopting women as their vice presidents. And for that, that is huge for us as women, because this has never happened in the history of Zambia. And so it just shows that we're breaking the cultural values that have been binding us from taking up leadership positions. And if we're looking at negative perspectives on women, we're looking at things like a woman should stay home and take care of children, right? A woman should take care of the home. In the old days, that's all we were meant for. A woman should just be there. You wait to be married, you have children, and then thereafter your job is to take care of those children. But now we are seeing different things happening in the lives of women. We're taking up more leadership positions, and we are being recognized in male-dominated spaces in different sectors of the economy. So we're really grateful for that. And then the other thing, as a country, also believe in the proverb that says, train a woman and you train the entire community. Yes, and this has been evident because now in our country as Zambia, we are seeing situations whereby positions such as human resource and others are being reserved for women because of the nurturing spirit that we have. And because of our ability to multitask, you know, how we can be able to handle a home and handle your duties at work. So it's been really amazing to see how much progress we are making in ensuring that women are inspired. Okay, and the other thing I can talk about is how, as a country, have made sure that there are more women owning land. There are more women being empowered to start their own businesses. Okay, so as Zambia, as a country, are really excited to see that women are every day changing their lifestyles, changing their communities, you know, through these different platforms that we have been given, especially in the political arena, in the entrepreneurship arena, and also when it comes to other things such as being able to lead a home, you know, because now we have more women that have just taken up leadership, even in the home setup, in the community setup. And so it just shows how much as a country we are committed to the part of the constitution where it says women and men shall be given equal rights. We've seen that happening in our country, and I'm just happy to report that it's not a law that has been forgotten. It's really something that is already happening. So that's pretty much it about Zambia. However, we have the negative sides to everything, you know, because we have regions in Zambia that consider women to be more like a source of wealth, you know, because we have our southern part of the country where women are valued based on how much they can be paid for. let's say in the southern part of the country, where one can just acquire as many women as he can just because he's able to. So this just shows that we don't, in that region of the country, we don't really value women the way we should, the way they should be valued like they are in other sectors. So that's one of the cultural issues that we are trying to work on, because polygamy, yes, is part of our African culture, but we've seen it, it's getting more prominent in some areas of our country. You know, people think you can just get as many women as you want and make them stay home, you make them have children, and it ends there just because I can afford them as a man, and just because it brings so much honor on my name as a man. But we need to also realize that women have much more to bring to the table than just the fact that we can bear children, the fact that we can make good wives. I feel like women can also excel in places, in male-dominated spaces. We've seen, in the recent past, we've seen more women take part in science-related programs. We've seen them take part in engineering programs. And so it just shows that a woman is just as hardworking as a man and can do anything that a man can do. And so apart from the country as a whole already making milestones in empowering women, I feel like we also need to make sure that even other regions of the country warm up to this idea, because it looks like that's where we're still having a challenge. Our culture is still playing a role somehow, and that's what we're trying to get rid of. But so far, so good in Zambia. I think we are on the right pace, and we're trying to ensure that women are given the platform. We're trying to make sure that women are given the opportunities to prove themselves and to contribute to the development of the country. So the other thing most of our women complain about is how the playing field is not leveled. You know how a woman is supposed to perform to the best of her ability when it comes to work issues, but also be able to deliver in a home setup. So we're trying to see how best things can be balanced between a man and a woman, because you see where men are just expected to perform where they are working, let's say in the workspace, but when they come home, the woman must take over. And we're trying to see how best women can be empowered, even from a home setup, community setup, until national level. But otherwise, as a country, I think we're doing well. In the agriculture industry or blue economies, women are playing the biggest role in the value chain. And it makes us really happy to see that the cultural barriers that were there before are slowly being broken, and we're getting somewhere as a country. And women every day are made to realize that, yes, our value does not just end in the kitchen. There is much more that we can do in the home and for the country at large. So it's really been amazing. And as we commemorate this African Freedom Day, it makes me so happy to also note that we can celebrate the women around, the young women like myself, and the young women out there that are doing what we thought was impossible, just to ensure that we develop as a country and we develop as individuals as well. So I'm going to take any questions if there are any. Otherwise, that is pretty much all I had for this presentation.
Thank you very much, Grace. I'm sure there are questions. I have questions myself, but let's just write those questions on the chat, and then we'll answer them. We'll ask them during our plenary session. However, thank you so much. I like that you said women are not supposed to be in the kitchen. I know the only time my role is in the kitchen is just to eat, you know, not to be cooking for the whole family. And we understand a language more than just the kitchen more than just doing chores. You know, we understand that there's education, we understand a whole lot of things that we're supposed to do other than just being in the kitchen and being baby making machines. Women are not baby making machines. But
exactly.
we are so grateful to be living in a generation and in a world that's slowly evolving and fighting patriarchy and gender equality. So thank you so much for that presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, please do write down your questions on the chat and we will have Grace answer them. I've already written mine down. So
thank you so much.
I think Karen, thank you so much, Grace. Thank you. I think Karen is back. I did see Karen. Karen Kumakanga, our next speaker. Yes.
Yes. I would just like to ask everybody to go on mute and off video so that I can harness the net as much as possible. That's one of the local challenges here. But it's great to be back. And I was just listening to what Grace Phiri was talking about and just looking at the progress that Zambia is making, just celebrating with my fellow sister in Africa. And that Zambia has got a woman vice president. Congratulations. That's how we started Malawi. We had a woman vice president, and before we knew it, we had a woman president, and that was amazing. It's now nothing new to see women in top leadership. We're just celebrating a woman director of our anti-corruption bureau, and she seems to be ready for the task. And yeah, it's amazing all around, and it's great to see that here in Africa we're making such progress. So basically what I just wanted to cover on was how culture affects women empowerment in Malawi. And like I said, we've had a woman president. We have notable freedom fighters such as Rose Chiwambo on our money. We have a chief that is a major activist on reducing child marriages. And we have major athletes such as Mary Wire that changed the way the world plays netball. So we have a lot of great women examples. And just looking at women empowerment itself, I felt looking at the definition and what they want to do with women is that empowerment is beyond gender equality. It's an intrinsic and extrinsic journey. I feel it is the enablement of the woman being able to achieve self-actualization and having a dignified and meaningful, relevant life experience in all spheres of her life. So whether a woman wants to be a housewife or an astronaut, we want that to be a meaningful experience as women.
Sorry for that. Sorry, Stella mute audio.
Looks like one of the mics is not on mute.
One of the mics is not on mute. I'm trying to communicate with the user. Ma'am, can you please mute your audio? I think she thinks she's not online. I don't know how best we can.
The host should be able to mute her.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
What is happening? Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
I think we must be back on now.
That has been disabled.
I will fix that just now. Our we should be back with Karen in a minute.
Hello?
Yes, Karen, hi, we can hear you.
Sure. I'm not sure where you
Sorry
lost me.
about that.
I was speaking on economic empowerment, that in Malawi we've made strides using what we call banking condes, savings and loans, where women are able to harness finances in groups. We've had programs such as the Women Creating Wealth Program, the Grassroots National Trust. We've been able to empower billionaires, and just high-profile businesswomen. Although amongst the young people, the government loan facility that is out, there are a few approval issues where you have to ask your husband's permission to get a loan from that fund. So there are just some things that are coming up about that. So yeah, the next part that affects a woman, Malawi, the society, and in the society.
Someone has audio on.
All right, just one moment.
All right. Interesting conversation though going on. If you're just joining us, this is Africa Day Regional Indaba, hosted by WILD Women's Institute for Leadership Development. And thank you so much for participating in this. I saw there's a question that already popped up to Grace. You can look into it so that we discuss it during our plenary session whilst we wait for Karen Kumakanga, our speaker from Malawi. Yes, on the impact of culture on women's empowerment. Karen, are you back? Are you ready? Okay, we'll give Karen a moment while she's preparing to come back. I'm going to ask Jennifer the poet to get ready. Is Jennifer here? Jennifer the broken poet? Is she here? Jenny. Okay. All right, maybe whilst we wait for Karen, we can answer GK Mhlanga's question to Grace Phiri. Grace, are you ready? Grace Phiri. Or maybe let me just read out the question to everyone, but also I think you can see it on the chat. It says, to Grace, besides celebrating the platform that women are now given.
Okay, I think I can take it up.
Yes, you can see the question, right?
Yes, so the question says to Grace, besides celebrating the platform that women are now given, are they given the necessary power to enforce change, or are they just put in the forefront to tick boxes because there has been instances where women have been undermined or used to that extent? All right, so the answer to this question is yes and no. Obviously, the politicians are using this to gain some mileage, some votes and support, but regardless, this is still a step forward for women. Other women are seeing these women and getting important appointments, are also getting inspired to change the narrative of women's participation. So either way, it's hard sometimes to tell if you're being used or not, but I feel like this is a stepping stone for women, because now we're being given these positions, we're being given these appointments, and it's up to us now to change things around us. Are we going to empower more women? Are we going to just stick to ourselves being given these positions? And on the other side, we live in a society which somehow allows other women to put down other women, and it makes it hard for women in these positions to get the support that they require from other women, because we're more used to being in this patriarchal system that doesn't really empower women. And so it makes it hard for one to embrace that authority that they've been given to be able to empower other women. So maybe we also need to change the mindset that women have towards other women and ensure that when one of us is given a certain appointment, or one of us has a certain level of authority, we use it to make sure that other women benefit from it, unlike using that opportunity to bring down the other woman. That's how I'd respond to that question. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Grace. Chika, you've been answered. But let's share our contributions and lessons on chat. Karen, are you back? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Please continue with your presentation.
It's great to be back. Apologies. Hopefully we can just go for a home run now. Yes, we're looking at economic empowerment of women in Malawi, that we've got great platforms, and we have access to government loan facilities. We've got savings and loans. Then we're going into the societal aspect of that affects women in Malawi, which is basically the church. This majority of Malawians profess the Christian faith, and the home and families themselves, marriages. And we're looking at that before this generation, the 21st century, basically. The church was very traditional, we did not recognize women leaders. But now we're living in a generation where we have a lot of women pastors, women ministers, we see a lot of women in leadership. But most of all, I think the most important aspect of that is the ability of a woman to have her own faith outside from her family or her husband, or her able to journey by herself to have her own relationship with her faith and with her church, which I feel is the greatest progress made over time. There's more understanding for even why that could have education, access to girls going to school, and for themselves, their identity and understand their gifts and their callings, and be able to get to this sphere where they feel comfortable. But we're moving more into women becoming self-actualized, being able to understand who they are in society. But 90% of women live in rural communities. have both access to technologies, and there's some interest in drones. Us, I know for Zambia, we talked about the southern region, where women has the rights of women, has those role in society, but education is combating that in student school programs, especially we're looking at that with recommendation rights, have vision sections with future goals, so I want to do for coming to school, talk to them, so there's more artists and media those to have bold vision, but we can see that that's turning in Malawi, and we're seeing people coming from the rural community and taking leadership in town. There is a case study of women that spoke with the bank items to be made bank education that she did not study and educate to push her into actually becoming a woman career and one space and identity. It is possible for those things to be studies that there is still need in marriage in home, or especially men. A lot of men especially alongside women development. There's been a lot of things, a lot of can, but you can between understanding in gender equality working and everything. So if that starts from an early age, and I think I'll be open to hear from other women in turn. How can we hold more men, more young boys, understand how we cousins, their wife, how they can support to us moving forward as a society. Just quickly at the landscape in Malawi, we have and I act, especially policies representation, the private sector. Of course, that's an ideal. It doesn't always happen in those unfolded. The Marriage, Divorce, and Family Relations Act, issues like very graphic, in my mother's property, but it does also give us the marriage age, which is 18, has very in South America, the act that covers that. There is the Prevention of Domestic Violence Act, which partly according to my human rights activist friends could use the review, but the effort is there. It is usually a hard familiar but great for terrible implementation, but it still needs to be room for implementation to happen. Especially personally on the divorce, a lot of women that go through divorce and lose everything and don't have access to their property. There's still this the relatives bunch up or things like that. So I feel at the end of the day, recommendations that I could for going for this. As women, we could look at more vision casting and practice partnership that we do around the girls around us, whether at our church, in our community, near our home, in our Bible study group, wherever we meet. And perhaps the formation of a family rights commission to look into divorce and domestic violence rights. Because once that goes to the police and once that goes to lawyers, there is a loss of humanity in that. And there is this solidarity. There's a different way that we could take on issues like that. And I feel like the women in this room may have an idea of how we could take that going forward. But so far, so good. As a nation, we're developing very well. And even in spite of the pandemic, we still have women in leadership. We still have a democracy that is working. And we have a lot of women doing great things in Malawi. we are very hopeful for the future, very hopeful for our girls. And we believe the challenges that are there are basically for the women like us that are here to build them. Perhaps this is, as we say in Christianity, our call in our field to do something about. So thank you so much for listening here from Malawi and for being patient with the network. I was looking at the presentation. Let me go back and smiling at me. Hello. So yes, thank you. That's the perspective I just wanted to share from Malawi side.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Karen. That was quite insightful. I did write down a few things that you said, especially about women becoming more self-actualized and knowing who they are. But we will do the question and answer session, plenary session in April. So let's continue to get into the chat and write our questions for Karen or contributions whatsoever. So moving on with our program, I'm going to ask the poet, Jennifer. She calls herself the broken poet. I can't wait to hear what she will say. I don't know if she's ready. Jennifer, the poet, we'll wait for her to join us. But whilst we wait, I could do a poem, you know, but how much you guys have? I need y'all to show me notes. Maybe the Benjamins, the Rands, the Nairas, convince me to do a poem whilst we wait for Jennifer. Anyone? Okay, so I'm not going to share my special piece. You know, I was going to entice you. But how much is that? Looks like bond notes, Dr. Samu. No ways. You can't buy me with that. Okay, at least it's something. I'll take the 2 bonds. Anyone else? I need to Phiedarh so that I can start my. And remember, when a poet is reciting, just right. I think Jennifer is having network challenges, but I don't know, it's 2 bonds enough. 2 bonds. I need some Zambian kwatas, you know, Grace. No, I'm not a poet. I'm just going to say something. Going once, going twice. Okay. Yeah. How much is that? Is that 50 bond kind of? I think 50 is better. I need some rands at least. Is that 20 bond, 10 bond? 1 US. Let me see. 1 US is better. 1 US is a currency. No. 10,000 rand. Who's giving me 1 million rand? 1 million rand. No, the boss lady is tricking me into this. I'm not buying it. I'm not gonna buy it. But it's a poem. Now, if I say it's a poem, I'm going to be under pressure. So let's just say it's a piece that I wrote when I was in high school. Just let me not embarrass myself. I speak for a living, generally. Got another $10, $20. Okay, I'm doing this. That is going into my bank. So I guess there are more women than men wise, and that's why girls like me ain't into guys. So I minimize interaction to improvise. See, I used to model to show myself off like an enterprise, but to God, I ask for forgiveness and I apologize. Cut. Come hands for me, please. I want that $20, and I want that 1 US. So I have $21 in my bank account. Thank you, Paul. Thank you. All right, so we will. I'm going to read the messages on the chat. Okay, someone. I think I'm having problems with my computer. May someone please read for me the questions on the chat and the contributions? Anyone? Haha, she changed professions. Indeed, the poet. I'm going to be the African Barbie. That's my stage name for my poetry pieces. May someone please read for me the questions on the chat? Oh, you can't unmute. Let me see. I thought I saw. Let me fix this.
Hello?
Hello, please read for us the questions on the chat.
Okay, I don't know because I lost network somewhere. So I'll start with Grace, where she says, more women miss opportunities because of this PhD syndrome. We need a mindset shift and ensure that women take advantage of this and use it to empower more and more women. For example, I've used my influence to give other girls a voice. So I have to decide how they will use the opportunity to empower others. Otherwise, we'll always find ourselves in the same place. He goes on to say, Zambia as a country is to open up a Ministry of Gender to make sure that all gender equality issues are addressed and more women are given a chance in leadership. Now it's girls and women to take opportunity and run it. We need to work together as women and support each other so we can change the situation. Then we go on
That's
to...
a contribution from Grace, right? It's not a question.
Yes, it's a contribution.
Okay, interesting.
Then we go on to Angela McClapeng. She says, I don't know, over changing or is overacting. Sexist and patriarchal values are so deeply ingrained in society's consciousness, such that any woman who advances beyond subordinate positions and overcomes the norms is misunderstood and not likable. This contributes so much to women who are reluctant to take on leadership roles. Then she further goes on to say, on another note, female tokenism is also a major challenge where organizations and or corporations create an impression of inclusiveness and diversity to deflect accusations of discrimination. How do we address this?
All right, please repeat the question. I think that was a question for Karen, right? It sounds like it's a question from Karen's presentation, from what Karen had said in her presentation. Please just repeat it again, Ntando. Ntando, are you still there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. May you please repeat the question? I think it was for Karen. It sounds like part of it is from her, what she was presenting on.
All right. She says, on another note, female tokenism is also a major challenge where organizations and or corporations create an impression of inclusiveness and diversity to deflect accusations of discrimination. How do we address this?
All right, thank you. Karen, that's a question for you. But anyone can answer. Please feel free, because we're here to engage, to share ideas and to find solutions, definitely. So how can we address this issue where female tokenism is a challenge? Karen, would you like to take that question? Or anyone? Shamil, would you like to take the question?
Yes, no, that is fine. That is fine. Thank you very much, Angela, for the first comment that you mentioned, about this overarching patriarchal, system that, have basically suppressed women's empowerment for such a very long time. I mean, this is ingrained in our culture, is ingrained in religion. They even, there is even scriptures when you go back to, just to reiterate on this aspect of culture and patriarchy, it's ingrained in the Bible, where basically a male figure is given dominance over a woman's figure and over a female figure. And therefore, you see now, going back to our cultures and all of this, something that does not need policy to fix. It's something that basically needs us to basically have a mindset change. And that only happens when we understand what we mean by women's empowerment. To what extent are we referring to that? From what levels? Because I mean, when I like that Grace actually mentioned something about about how that looking at just the economical, just the economy across board in different countries in Africa, you find that we have these women who are somewhat empowered in the peri-urban and urban areas. And then the rest of them are actually, which is the majority, are left behind, because those are people now who are living right in the middle of this patriarchy, where culture defines who is a woman, who she is supposed to be, and all of that, which is why I'm saying that, having it in principle, in terms of policy, in terms of acts, is not enough. We need a mindset change for us to actually fight this. And then your question, Angela, about, tokenism and just putting in, women in positions disguising as giving them power, but in actual fact, actually stripping them of the little power that they even had in the first instance, is something that is terribly wrong. Which is why, in my response to you, Angela, I would suggest that in as much as we're coming up with policies and in as much as we're coming up with landmarks to say, okay, this is how many women we want to be in leadership, this is how many men we want to be in leadership, like in terms of quotas, let us also have, evaluation mechanisms. Let us have, accountability mechanisms, just to make sure that we keep on going back to cross-check what we are referring to. Because right now, none of that exists, actually. As you mentioned, there's quite a lot of young women, and not just young women, but a lot of women who are put in positions simply because someone is looking for someone to control. And when you get in there, you have no voice whatsoever. All you do is just to do what your bosses want, or what the male figure basically want the institution to become. And so I've seen on so many instances where women, basically, in as much as they have the title of directorship or senior manager or anything of that sort, in actual fact, when it comes to the decision-making table, she is probably the only one or 3 women out of 100 men in the same room, and they're making decisions. And this is where now you see all this oppression actually taking place. Out in the media, you are senior manager, you are director, but down when it concerns actual decision making at the table, you are mute. Basically, so this is
hey, Shamil. Hey,
truly, yeah.
You've got some really fiery points there. You must be an activist.
Sorry, I got cut off.
She's going on and on. She's fighting, girl.
No, that's all right.
It's very...
Yeah, sorry. After you.
Continue, Karen.
And so I just sort of wanted to build on the points that you were throwing out there. Like, whew, they were hot, but I caught a few.
Yeah, it's really amazing.
Yeah. So you're an amazing and very outspoken young woman. But for that, I just want to give you kudos before I continue. We need more strong voices out there, because there's just some things that need to be taken head on, and every personality counts. So first of all, I'm going to take it from your take, issue of the Bible verses and the church being a bit stoic in there and being stuck in its ways. And where I come from the Baptist church, that's a huge issue we've been debating for many years. And they don't recognize women pastors at all. And this is something that's very now backward in Malawi, because there are a lot of women pastors, a lot of great ministries that they're doing. But even in countries where they've had a Holy Spirit movement for more years than Malawi, you'll find there's still issues like that. There's still people slam dunking each other on TV that a woman can't teach the Bible and things like that. I think it's still the same thing of a mindset change, that people have to understand that even Christianity evolved, even faith evolved. Because if you go to the very same Bible, it says that there is no man, no woman, no free, no slave. We're all one under the same Lord. So it's like basically which section are they reading? Because as you go further on into the growth of any culture, you find that culture must evolve or it must die. So as we continue evolving as the faith nation, you will find that there is more room for people at the top. But until then, it still comes back to the issue of two things that keep coming up. The issue of mindset change for the patriarchal system that has been there since the beginning of time. We're looking at Abraham, Isaac, Joseph, and we're looking at the people at my village. The chiefs have always been men. When the gospel came into Africa, it was brought by men. So there's been a lot of exposition of things, a lot of our values, a lot of our laws were written by men. So as we are evolving as nations, well, basically as Malawi, and as women become more actualized and they realize who they are, there is a need to not be part of the system, but to be able to contribute to the system enough that we have a voice. So the issue of female tokenism, this happened practically when we got the new government into power after a whole year back and forth. The president issued an appointment for a certain lady that I know very well to take on a gender something position, and she just turned him down. So she simply did not take the position. It was very controversial, and for a long time I was offended because I like the president. But now sitting here, I understand where she was coming from. Tokenism is not going to help anybody. It is better she comes in from outside the system and is able to blow the whistle on things that are not right than for her to be part of a system that is not yet fixed. So we need to stop waiting for men to invite us to their table when we can make our own table and sit down. So, well, female tokenism is an issue. It's this whole thing of wanting to belong, to be part of the crowd. We need to be unique, to stand out like a sore thumb. We need to hurt. A woman was taken from the side, and that's where we should be poking. Hey, move. We need to have our own unique back. So tokenism, yes, it happens, but our defense against that would be, let's take our own initiative to set up our own bodies that speak against such things. So I'm going to stop there, otherwise I'll get carried away. I know the issues of marriage, issues of wanting to have those nice positions, but why you want someone to make you a director? Be your own director. Set up your own organization.
All right, thank you, Karen, for that contribution. There's another question from the boss lady that came in, I think, during Grace's presentation. It says, with so many platforms for women empowerment by ourselves as a woman, how, as women, I think she meant to say, with so many platforms for women empowerment by ourselves as women, how effective are we? I think probably she's trying to say, how can we, boss lady, please help me elaborate this question. Are you saying how effective are we on our own without men? Is that what the question was saying? I don't know if she's still in the meeting, but that question is from the boss lady. Anyone to take that question? How effective are we as women on our own on platforms like this? How effective are we? Anyone to answer that? Karen, I see you are ready.
Yes, but I do not want to dominate the conversation. I see a hand is up from Tando.
From Tando. Oh yes, Tando, please take that one for us.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
you.
So
the question was how effective are we as women without men, right? And in my opinion, we are very effective. We can do it. Like we have proven that there is not much difference between us and men, and they have been running the world for centuries without us. And they may have failed, of course, in as much as we may fail, but we are still okay, right? We'll still be fine. And at the same time, I feel like the gender discussion has to shift from being about women excluding men to women including men, absorbing them into the system and having them work together with us while having an equal playing field. So when we say that, how effective are we without men? What are we saying about the men? We need to prepare the men for this empowered women that we're trying to build. When we say that we can do without them, of course we can, but at the end of the day, we exist in a society with men. We
Can
live
we do
with them.
without men? Are we not creating an imbalance if we're saying we can do without men?
We can do without men, we agree, but we don't have to. We don't need.
I think that is open for debate.
Tado, the truth is we don't
I
want
think
to.
Dr. Sam, sorry, Karen, Dr. Sam who has her hand up, she wants to say
Sure,
something.
no problem. No problem.
Dr. Samu? We can't hear you. Okay, yes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, we can hear you.
I want to respectfully disagree on the issue on whether we can be effective without men. I think I think that my answer would be no. You know, when we meet and we have this kind of discussions and we get so much knowledge that we share with one another, but the fact that the people, you know, our main stakeholders, I mean, they are men. So at the end of the day, we need to, when we share this information, we should have one or two men to be in our midst so that they can go and, you know, share with other people, because we teach each other so much, we empower each other so much, but then we still go back to our spaces whereby we then have to shrink, you know? So I think we really have to, okay, let me speak. I am a mother of 2 kids. I am a wife as well, you know, and I'm a lawyer. I have found that in my journey of marriage and academia and motherhood and parenthood, it is important that men get involved, because we can go as far as we want, but they will still go back and challenge us. Why? Because they are not getting this kind of information that we're sharing here. At the end of the day, we become less effective. You understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
We need the men. We need them to come on board. From our little babies, our little boys, we need to start nurturing them to understand these women issues. We have to fight and make sure that we try and avoid excluding men. Of course, their views might be contrary to what we want to hear, but when they are in our presence, we can impart something to them and we can actually challenge their thinking, you know? Yes, that's what I want to say.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Samuel. I definitely agree. We need men, we do, but it's subject to debate, obviously. We will continue with the plenary session after our next speaker that I'm going to call upon. So her name is Lady Tshawe, who is an award-winning, multi-talented artist. Her artistic style, expression, and image embody her abilities, aspirations, and achievements. She advocates for expressing herself as a person, which is far from the need to be afforded privileges because she is a woman. She has performed in numerous theatre productions in and outside the country of Zimbabwe. As such, Zambezi Express, Tellers, the musical Blood and Tongue, which saw her win Best Theatre Actress in 2018 at Vuyo Arts Awards, just to name but a few. In 2019, she wrote and directed her first theatre production called 6.55, which saw her win in the 2020 Vuyo Arts Awards Best Theatre Production. Lady Tshawe is a holder of a BA in Drama and Ethnomusicology from Rhodes University and is currently studying towards her MBA. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Lady Tshawe.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you so much, Dee. Thank you, Grace. Everyone else that has spoken thus far. It has been an interesting discussion, and I'm really happy to hear the impacts are almost similar in almost every country. I'll just get right into my presentation. How culture is affecting the empowerment of women in Zimbabwe is almost similar to what my sister was speaking about in Zambia. We're going to talk about the traditional culture as well as religion having an impact on how we women are empowered. Please do send through your questions as I speak to help me cover everything at one go. Religion, as we all know, is very patriarchal, especially the Christian faith, and Zimbabwe is predominantly a Christian country. And so everything is patriarchal in the sense that it is a man who is in the forefront of everything. It's difficult for a female to take leading roles in making decisions. And this is affecting us even outside the religious spheres because every man believes that a woman needs to submit. So even if you're in a corporate structure, there are some men who are so stuck in their ways, they believe that the female has to submit, they get intimidated by a female who is in a position of decision-making and leadership. And our culture as well, as much for our traditional culture is beautiful, but it is also very limiting because it almost boxes what a woman can and cannot do. And we're living in the 21st century and we're still having people who are stuck in the old ways, who believe that a role of a woman is to be a homemaker, is to be a wife, is to be a mother, and she must just be a nurturer, be a caregiver, but overlooking the more outside of that. And it's really difficult in empowering women who are surrounded by such ideologies and mentalities because they can't quite thrive, not because they're incompetent, but because the society is proving them to be incompetent, if that makes sense. Oh, sorry about that, I muted myself. But it's also very important to note that as women, our culture, especially the Ndebele culture, for example, there were very prominent, powerful women that had positions of leadership, and they broke the status quo. So that aspect of culture is beginning to infiltrate to some of the women in the country right now. I can speak of women like Queen Lozi K, who was one intriguing and dangerous woman. She was one of the last leaders of the Ndebele tribe, and she led people through a war, and they won, and unfortunately she died because of influenza. And these are women who have stood the test of time, that have defied all odds. Everyone knew that it's a man that goes to war, it's a man that leads an army, it's a man that leads a nation, but here's a female that has done that. And that knowledge in of itself is, I'm actually seeing young people beginning to embrace that aspect of culture, to say you can actually defy the culture parameters that have been given to you. You can go to work whilst pregnant. You can even after giving birth, you can demand that you have proper services within your companies, within your place of work, to enable you to transition back into the work life after having given birth. We have a culture mindset of people who believe that a woman cannot make decisions, but we're beginning to see women who are define those as making decisions. We're seeing women rising up into platforms of being directors, of being making decision-making positions, and women leading in the front of making policies that empower other women. And our culture, as one of the ladies have spoken, it's important to realize that we cannot live without the men. We need them, but they need us more. Once you see a woman in a leadership position, you can see a change, a dynamic within that particular company, organization, or that particular industry that the female is in. But it's so sad to see that not only is the culture of patriarchy playing against us, also this culture of women not supporting each other derails the women empowerment. It derails women moving forward. It causes a lot of stagnancy that's taking place, because women generally, I don't know what got into us, whether it's the society bringing us up, telling us that you all have to be in constant competition with another female. We constantly see females bring each other down, and that's the PhD syndrome, and I'm sure we've spoken about that and we've heard about that at length. But also, tokenism is something that is also taking place in Zimbabwe, and because we have people, organizations, industries that depend on donor funding and reportings, they have to tick certain boxes, and if they have a certain number of females, then they have accomplished whatever they've set their mind to do. But that's also a bit unfair, because you're not taking me as a woman based on my abilities. You're taking me because I'm just a female, and you're overlooking the fact that I'm possibly capable of this job and qualified to actually do this job. But it's almost like you're feeling sorry for me, and that's a very, very serious culture that's taking place, that if it's not nipped in the bud or taken care of, will actually derail the empowerment of women. I'm about to get to the ending of my presentation, because it's very short, because I realized whilst I was also researching that in sub-Saharan Africa, we almost have the similar challenges of what culture has impacted on women's empowerment. When I go back to faith and the religion, women's empowerment is being suffocated because we have to base everything on the Bible. So you can't have a female who expresses her sexuality, can't have a female who expresses her strength in leadership, because it goes against a certain faith. And that is also derailing on women's empowerment. We are failing the women because of that. Ladies and gentlemen, if any present, this is where I end with my presentation. Please bring 2 questions so that we can discuss and I answer. Thank you.
Interesting presentation. Thank you so much, Lady Tshawe. I really quoted, or rather have a quote: "We need men, but they need us more." Now that is food for thought. I mean, think about that, a powerful statement from Tshawe. Karen says, yes, we really shouldn't accept opportunities out of pity. Moving on with our program, because of our time, I am going to call upon Jennifer, the broken poet. Now I'm so embarrassed because I started this whole, let me give you a piece. Now the real poet is there. So let's not compare. This is her job. Jennifer, please.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Chiveya. I go by the stage name. My stage name is The Broken Poet. And this piece that I'm going to do for you right now is called Molweni Ma-Afrikakazi. Molweni Ma-Afrikakazi. Wena sizwekazi samaqhawekazi lendlovukazi, the embodiment of beauty, with streams of melanin flowing on every city, a black seed you carried and nurtured to royalty. You, a land that bears and carries excellence, shines with sun-baked daughters of the sun and virtuous women of the soil. It is your quill of many colors and the diversity of the stories you tell through smoke and drums. Do you not know the earth quakes at the sound of the vibration of your steps? Stride of queens, shaking and cracking dry grounds. I am speaking of her and her hair, the long fro and the short fro, yes, the locks too, that radiant glow that blinds other continents beyond sight. Yes, it is the unique tongue, Mama Africa, clicking and speaking life into existence. Do you not feel the crispy brown glaze that dried up in the pigment of your skin, umdaga omnyama? Do you not feel that you are the one who lets the sun to shine? You drip of rich couches that reflect your ancient attires, crafted with songs of your heritage, raised us up from the roots of your indigenous offspring underneath that amarula tree. Yes, do not forget that you are now free. You replaced slavery with slavery. Yes, you are now free. Mother of the motherland, you are the map that traces us back to the heart of God. Your strength lies in the unfilled hands and the ever-burning spirit of Ubuntu. Hunu wedu, nasi takupembedza ma-Afrikakazi. Thank you.
What happened? Thank you very much, Jennifer. I think if we had been physically together, we would have been ululating, you know, doing I aswonge. That's what you said, right? That was such a beautiful piece.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was Jennifer, the broken poet, giving us her poem. So up next, our next speaker is Dumisang Agosi, the founder and regional chair for African Union Youth Club in Southern Africa. She is leading a 16-member, 16 SADC delegation of pragmatic youth leaders in advocating for ratification and implementation of African Youth Charter, driving the UN Sustainable Development Goals and Africa's Agenda 2063. She's a brand consultant and social entrepreneur. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Shamil.
Thank you very much for that introduction, T. Thank you so much. It has been a very wonderful conversation following through, and I think I can actually agree with the rest of my colleagues to say that, you know, this conversation is one that is much needed, but most importantly, I figured that just like other of my colleagues, I figured that the you know, the challenges that we're facing as women in Africa, basically, you know, you know, the cross borders, you know, it's something that we all have to, you know, sort of fight together. And so, ladies and gentlemen, as mentioned, my name is Shamil Agosi, a brand consultant and a social entrepreneur. I'm going to be basically giving you perspectives of Botswana about, you know, impacts of culture, you know, in women's empowerment. And in starting this, I'd like to just make a quote by Kamala Harris, who basically during one of the UN, you know, conventions said that the status of women is indeed, you know, the status of democracy. And I listened to this, I listened to her when she was actually saying this, and I had to ponder on it to say, when she says that, you know, the status of women is the status of democracy, what does it actually mean in a deeper sense of it? And I figured that it is so true in every element. You look at governance together, I mean, you look at governance today, and you look at, you know, women in that particular community, it could be Botswana, it could be Zimbabwe or anywhere else, and you look at their status, then you will see indeed how rugged our democracy is, particularly not just here in Africa, but it's just that maybe our problems, are more out there in the world for the world to see, more covered in media, documented in every, platform than the others. And so, in that, it gives us a sense to say that, we need to, in as much as we are fighting for empowerment, we need to also document the good things that Africa have made, the good parts that we've made in terms of, our efforts towards empowering women. And so in Botswana, women, like any other society, we contribute, we constitute about 50% of the entire population. And within this, actually, there's social differences really depending on like regional location, for example. We have also occupation, we have issues of ethnicity, our religious affiliation, as was mostly mentioned, during the conversation, as well as also educational attainment. And now when you actually look at this, you realize that women who have acquired better education, who have progressed in terms of, getting qualifications and all of that, they have basically, enabled others to basically climb up the ladder in terms of leadership, in terms of careers, and all of that. I remember I always give reference to the fact that when I was much younger, when I was about 13 years and all of that, it was very difficult. I mean, you saw women around you, but it was difficult for you to identify just one role model, a figure that you wanted to sort of like become, in a sense, to say, oh, this is the kind of person that I think I want to be like in the near future. But as I grew up and all of that, it became even more and more and more clearer. Why? Because now it was the advent of social media, not just social media, but the internet of things. That's where now you saw a lot of women now being documented who are doing really amazing stuff out there and all of that are really inspiring to the girl child. And in this, I'm mentioning this because I believe truly that there's a very huge role that our media can play in terms of advancing, the gender, or gendered impact of empowerment really on women. And it is the role of our media to basically make sure that we document all these amazing women, like the ones who are in the panel right now. We need to know what they are doing, the likes of my colleague from Grace from Zambia. We need to document all of this work so that the younger generation can actually take notes from. And then there is a Tswana proverb actually that says that and it says Dikawela Solomon, and it goes on to say that this basically in essence gives you that a woman cannot lead, cannot be in the forefront. This is a cultural, this is something that we're holding on dear to, that we're saying that we don't want to lose our culture, but this is what the culture is saying. Culture is saying that a woman cannot be in the forefront. It means that if a woman is in the forefront, we will fall. And it goes on to say that a man is a natural leader. This is a cultural proverb that we are teaching our children in schools. This is a cultural proverb that our parents, when they want to basically do anything, they're told that no, you cannot be in the forefront. And we mentioned this during the conversation that obviously religion has got a very huge role. In terms of perpetuating this violence against women, honestly, in a sense, by our culture, is a true ambush of women. And then it also, it goes on to see, we go on to see it even, in our academic, stances and all of that. In as much as I do appreciate the efforts that have sort of like, been done so far in terms of, cutting down sectoral, borders when it comes to women's empowerment and all of that. To this day, you still look, you have to actually find and really look deep to find find women who are active in STEM, in STEM sector, who basically are great engineers and all of that. But now if you go to the internet, the ones that you're going to be seeing, the ones that are documented, you see engineer so-so is a male. You see, a pilot so-so. Originally, when you think about a pilot, you're thinking a man. But now we have female pilots and all of that. And this is something that I keep on now going back to the issue of the role of media in actually cutting down this, this narratives, particularly about our culture in terms of bringing down women and all of that. And then, just to touch on the patriarchal, history that basically hinders, women's empowerment, both socially and economically. I will, in sense, not touch on what some of my colleagues basically touched on, but just to reemphasize that, culture of patriarchy is basically so entrenched in, in the fabric of our community. And now, when you think about the issues of gender, we have to remember that, these are very personal things. And now when we take the discussion of patriarchy, we look at the fact that it is so deeply rooted, like I said, in the principles of control, male dominance, identification, as well as centeredness. That's where now centrism, you see how very dangerous it is when it comes to, empowering women. And this is something that is still also entrenched in our culture. And then, just still on the notion of patriarchy, just to bring in a note to say that, our work as women have basically, been systematically demeaned. When a woman does something, when she's, put into a position of power, first things first, people don't look at the fact that you are a director or you are a leader in whatever position you're holding. First of all, they look at the fact that you are a woman. And when they look at the fact that you are a woman first, then comes in patriarchy, comes in the fact that no, we doubt if she can actually bring out the value that we want as a company. This is where now, when you go deep down into the boardrooms and all of that, that's where now, when during the votings and everything, men legitimately go on and they advocate for one another to say, no, we cannot allow for this woman to come in. When they are actually now, mobilizing and making sure that they're voting in a woman, then there's always connotations to it. Issues of control, male dominance, to say that, okay, we are putting her in, but she has to understand that we will be making decisions, majority of decisions with us. And usually the policies, even when it goes down to the issues of governance and all of that, some of the policies that women in our parliaments are allowed to even voice out and to bring, you find that it's like premeditated stuff. They were told, oh no, you can only touch on this softer ones, but then the other policies, you find that they're the ones that now are actually brought up by men instead of women, and you're like, why are you silencing women and all of that? And then to say that, in the when you look at the patriarchal culture, you realize that domination has always been paired with violence, has always been paired, and it could be physical, it could be moral, it could be structural, and also symbolic. And in this, we need to actually now start reinventing or perhaps maybe looking at how we can strengthen our efforts in terms of fighting, the patriarchal society or patriarchal, cultural ideologies and beliefs that we have and all of that. And when it comes to the issue of culture, I would want us to actually now have a very honest discussion around, some of very harmful traditional and cultural practices that Africa basically holds dear to. And you see this, like, for example, in our villages and all of that. To this day, there's still practices of gender mutilation. And majority of these women who are basically, victims. And then you look at also, issues of, child marriages and all of that. The girl child has no say whatsoever and all of that. You're told you can be, you get married at 13 years, at 10 years, at 8 years. parents have already decided have already decided who you're going to marry and all of that. Now, when you come of age, I mean, you don't even aspire to become better, because all you're working for your entire life is to become a housewife and all of that. So these are things that we really, really have to deal our way with. But it goes back to the systematic approaches that I always advocate for, to say that we cannot fight it from the top, because, hey, with the Generation X, already their minds are made. But now we need to do more information. We need to do more, more education from grassroots. And systematically, our children today, the 5-year-olds, 2-year-olds, they need to be taught what is equality. They need to know that between them, the boy child and their female counterparts, they are equal. And I'm not saying this because, like I said, the issues of gender are very personal. And so most of the time when you're talking about them, it really depends on your own personal experiences with the other gender. And so that's where, I mean, with the male counterparts and all of that. So there's always a personal touch to it, which is why, like, the conversation, I believe that we really have to look at it from different aspects and just look at how we can basically win this fight and all of that. So in terms of research in Botswana, it shows that majority of women, 3 out of women in Botswana basically have been subjected to one or more of the following, gender violence based forms. It could be 1, assault, sexual harassment, sexual exploitation, severe beating, you talk about rape, you talk about incest, you talk about socioeconomic abuse that we are seeing on a daily basis, verbal or emotional, abuse and all of that. And now, COVID-19, what it did, it was just to show us the extent upon which this violence is actually happening. And it was really, disheartening to see that during national lockdowns and all of that, there was a skyrocket in GBV incidences, but there was absolutely nothing. That's when now you saw the structural and as well as the law enforcement and all of how basically when it comes to protecting women, we have not done much. Yes, we have policies. Yes, we have acts. Yes, our like Botswana Police, for example, they have a gender unit, that basically looks at GBV issues and all of that. But you look at what efforts have we done in terms of implementing what we have in paper, and you realize that we are not ready as a community. We are not ready as a society to start fighting for the women's rights. We are not ready. And so now I'd like to touch, really before I finish off, I'd like to touch on the barriers to fulfillment of equality and opportunity as it pertains to, culture as a barrier to women's empowerment. There is basically a notion of undervaluing women's work. When a woman does something, obviously, it's scaled down. And in actual fact, women actually work more than men. We have to put in 10 times the work than our male counterparts. And this is something that now, the aspect of the issue of equity has to come in. But are we ready to have that conversation? No, we are not as a community. But women, we need to push on this mandate. We need the media to help us do this. We need culture to help us do this. And then the gender wage gap, I don't even want to get started on that, because you would find a woman, put in a position alongside their male counterparts, and then you find that the man has a higher pay than the woman, and it's everywhere. Basically, this is something that we need to find. It does not need only policy; it needs like a very intentional and very deliberate, efforts, and all of that. So, gender patterns and access to education, like here in Botswana, over the past years, we've actually, I know that in Botswana we have actually attained gender parity when it comes to access to education, particularly at the primary and secondary education level. But there's a fallout. There's a fallout when it goes to tertiary and all of that. And that's where now that sectoral segregation takes place. That's where now you see the male, our male counterparts going on and taking in, more technical, technical programs and all of that. And then the women taking into arts, taken into this and all of that. And how do you do this? It's the school system. It's the school system that chooses, oh, this is the women that we want. They can study arts. They can study humanities. And then for sciences, majority of those who are allowed are men. And all of that. So it basically it basically takes away all the efforts that were made at the primary and secondary level. So this is something that we also need to confront as a community, as academics. We need to basically confront this. And then social attitudes, for example, I heard during the conversation that as women, we're not ready to support each other. It's because of the social attitudes. I mean, we are not used to seeing each other win. And when you see a woman, in fact, we're like, all of us have been so demeaned, all of us have been, abused and all of that. So none of us must take head. None of us must be in the forefront. And when one does that, we bring her down. It's not okay. It's sick in every sense. So we need to now start celebrating what we are doing as women. We need to document it. We need to start working together. Because if we are not going to do this, then the men will always take dominance. They will always say, women say they want to push, gender equity agenda, but they are the ones who are also fighting each other. We can't attain it if we continue doing this and all of that. And, like I mentioned earlier on, women, society, when they look at a woman leader, they see a woman first. And then they doubt her capabilities. Even when that woman presents, people usually what they do selective listening. They choose what they want to hear from a woman and what they do not want to hear. They pick sides and then they disregard the entire message. And then there's another thing that is very dangerous that is happening. Age as a factor on itself. In first instance, we're looking at just the fact that you're a woman, and then your age plays a role as well in marginalizing you as a woman. And then another factor is, most of the time we see how young female leaders are undermined. Of course, they're given ministerial positions. Of course, they're given this. But in the political rooms, in the decision-making rooms, as I mentioned earlier on during the comment, it's not them who make the decision. They're told you're too young. Because society believes that when you are young, you are less wiser. Society believes that your age, as you grow, you become wiser, and therefore you are suited to make, best what's good for society and what's not. And when you are a young woman, it's an ad hoc thing. You basically come on as second class. And in finishing, I'd like to basically say that, in protecting, harmful cultural norms, we are basically perpetuating violence. So if you find yourself at any point advocating for culture and you know that it has harmful, connotations to it, you should know that you are perpetuating, violence against women and girls. And therefore, I think that what we need to do, we have a continent to build. And with that, we cannot achieve it if we as women are left unempowered. And so to achieve this, everybody, all the stakeholders have to be involved. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Shamil. I know it was long, but thank you.
Yo, how do you say thank you in Tswana? Is that it? Shamil, that was powerful. I just wanted to be there, and say Amanda. Come on, unmute everyone and say what?
Amanda.
No, wait, Amanda.
Now wait.
Banzla. I hope I got that right.
Yeah. Wow, that was such a beautiful presentation, and hearing your perspective on the impact of culture and women's empowerment in Botswana. So moving on with our program, we will get into some musical. Yes, Amanda. Thank you very much, Tembelishe. So Vuyo Brown is Vuyo ready? Vuyo is one of my favorite artists from the City of Kings in Bulawayo. She recently released her single or album, Maye, but I loved it. So Vuyo Brown, please take us away.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, how are you?
Hello.
All right, so
Hi.
as
Hello.
Dee has already said, I hope you can see me. So I'll get straight into it. This song is called Chulawa. It's one of my favorite songs. It's my previous song, actually. Chulawazi, yeah, gingu utiko, yeah. Chulawazi, gingu utiko, yeah. Chulawazi, yeah, gingu utiko, I am the Lord that healeth thee. Chulawazi, gingu utiko, yeah. Chulawazi, yeah, gingu utiko, yeah. Noma kunzima, ungalahli ithemba, konke kuyolunga. Isikhathi phela, usebenza kanzima kodwa kwehlule, kuthule, komile, amathuba buyaphinda kunyuka, kuthule, komile, ekukhanyeni ubona komnyama, awuboni lutho bona umnyama, ungakhathazeki, umhlaba uyahlaba. Kodwa nginawo wonke amaqhinga ngempilo yakho, linda uthandaze, ngizokwenza konke. Chulawazi, gingu utiko, yeah. Chulawazi, yeah, gingu utiko. Chulawazi, yeah, gingu utiko. Ngithi wena chulawazi, yeah, gingu utiko. Yeah. La 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 la, awe, yeah. La 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 la, awe, la la la, yeah. Oh, I am the Lord that healeth thee.
Even the computer says,
konke kuyokwenzeka, lanoma ungaboni, wena themba mina.
Oh, Vuyo, we were still enjoying that piece. Did we just lose her?
I'm sorry, I think
Vuyo?
something happened with network.
Okay, glad you're back. We were enjoying that. That was so beautiful.
I'm so sorry, something happened with network. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Wild. Thank
Are
you
you
for having
just
me.
giving us one song?
Yes, unfortunately.
Okay, it's okay. I'm going to sing the rest of the song. I'm joking. Thank you so much, Vuyo. That's Vuyo Brown, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Yeah, she's an amazing musician. Love her vocals. Like, I'm not going to try and do any of that. I'm not going to embarrass myself again because, yeah, well, I'll stick to poetry. So we will get into our discussion again. Questions from Lady Tshawe's presentation and Shamil. I saw a lot of contributions coming in when Shamil was sharing on her perspectives, but feel free on the chat. I don't know what's wrong with my chat on the computer, but I can't seem to open all of the contributions and questions. Let me see if I can, but can someone assist me?
Hello.
On the questions that were directed to Lady Tshawe?
Yes, I can. Hello.
Who's this? Tando?
It's Ntando.
Okay, yes. May you please help us on the questions that were raised during the presentations by Lady Tshawe and Shamil?
Okay.
Okay. I went through them and most of them aren't questions, they're contributions mostly.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So let me try and open them. Let me open the charts. Okay, the first contribution was from Karen Kumakanga. Karen says that can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes, we can hear you.
But I think you jumped some of the contributions before Karen.
Oh, there are some before Karen.
Yes, please.
Let me see. Oh, yes, they were. Okay, so I'm going to start from Cindy Dlamini. Cindy Dlamini says, personally, I feel if us as females, we are the same vision, we can maximize on the tokenistic positions that we are given to bring about change. The challenge is most women that get these positions do not share the same aspirations with other women, and they tend to forget they are representing other women. That was the first contribution from Cindy Dlamini. And then the next one was from me. Let us agree today that patriarchy will not allow a mindset system to take place, a mindset change to take place just like that. It has existed for centuries and has been ingrained intricately into our society in ways that we haven't even imagined. A mindset change will not just come, we'll have to fight for it and fire from all cylinders. We need to hammer patriarchy by any means necessary. If we're going to change the mindset, we have to fight. And then Cindy Dlamini again. Personally, I would say we don't live in isolation. Of course, we can do without men, but we don't need their negative energy. We also need these men to support us and not pull us down, which I think is a very powerful point, my personal opinion. Then we have Rachel Bogonube, who says, I think women are effective without men. The degree of effectiveness then depends on the type of the task at hand. However, we can't say we can do without men. We can't, because both men and women should, at the end of the day, define a society. Should I end there? Then we have Tembelihle Swanda, who says, Rachel Vogo, I'm glad that women and men cannot live without each other, but have to reach a compromise of understanding in terms of roles in leadership. Then Karen Kumakanga.
Sorry, I think I just got back on my chat. I don't know what is going on, but thank you very much, Thando. I think those were contributions, and it looks like there's so many of them, but we can all read the contributions in the chat and try and focus on the questions so that they are answered and we all can have an understanding of what we also did not understand. It says women are the promoters of patriarchy. Who does the virginity testing? Who does the genital mutilation? This is Dr. Samuel's question. Oh yeah, are women the promoters of patriarchy? Come to think of it.
Yes,
Are we
yeah.
promoters of patriarchy? Can someone answer? Tshawe, Shamil, Thando, anyone? Okay, let's have Thando Ncube answering that one.
I think to a very high degree, we are the custodians of patriarchy, because obviously the gatekeepers, sorry, something wrong with my camera. Switch this off. Obviously, with the men as the gatekeepers of it, we also play a very big role, because ukulaywa, let me try and put that in English, which is the teachings that you're given before marriage. These come from women, and they have a lot of patriarchy ingrained in them, just those teachings in how you're supposed to carry your household and take care of your husband. So you already go into a mindset being taught by women how to be subservient to the men. Not only in marriage, in so many other different instances. I'll let the other ladies also jump in.
All right, that's quite interesting. True, and I definitely agree that when we're getting married, we sit down with our auntie, and we're told, don't do this, do that for a man, and this and that. Any other contributions? Yes, Dr. Samu.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I want to add on what I said, that women are the promoters of patriarchy, although I want to make a contribution on something that's a bit different. I did a study on rape and sexual violence in Zimbabwe, and I was so pained when I discovered that in most cases when young girls are raped, they report to females. Mostly they will report to females. And in most cases, they will report to mothers. And if it's, let's say it's a stepfather who has raped the girl, the stepmother would say, the mother of the girl will always say something like, you cannot destroy my marriage, my marriage has to be intact. You cannot destroy my marriage. If you report this issue, my marriage is going to be destroyed. So at the end of the day, the teachings that what happens to that girl? She walks away feeling depleted. It doesn't matter how far she will go on with her education. She can even have a PhD or whatever, or MBA or whatever. But the fact that already she has been bruised as a young girl, and the person who is supposed to be giving her, us as women. And then also I asked, who does the virginity testing? It's females. I've never heard of a scenario where men gather together and say, girls, come, line up, let us test your virginity. It is the females. It is our aunties and the gogos who sit down and say, okay, let's check their virginity. Who does the mutilation? We can say a lot, men are doing this and they're doing that, but at the core of things that deplete our confidence, things that reduce our confidence, it's females who do it. Imagine it's if you look at some of these cultures in Nigeria, where the girl is taken and she's just sort of like kidnapped to go to some men. It is the women who do that. It is the women who they'll be in the forefront. They are the ones who take their children to the bushes so that their genitals can be cut. Men are not involved. But of course, they will always say that these things are done for men. So I wanted to just bring that kind of dimension to it. That let's not even start at the top. Let's start at the bottom. Let's start teaching our girls the right things. You are beautiful the way you are. You need to go to school. You need to do something for yourself. You can do it, instead of making them stay in the kitchen. You know what? It's not the men who are making us stay in the kitchen when we're little girls. It's our mothers, it's our aunties, it's our gogos. And already they are teaching us that we are less. When toys are being bought, we will say, make sure that her dollies are okay. She must even get the one who is black. These days we even say, no. let's not only buy her Barbie. Make sure that the dolly is also black and it's got kinky hair. Of course, I'm saying we need to do something. Buy your girls toys, toy cars, toy aeroplanes, toy jets, toy this, the girls. And when they're growing up, make sure that they're not always in the kitchen cooking while the boy is, fixing something out there and doing something that's more productive. We need to be the ones who are in the forefront.
On a very sore point, Doctor. I just have to jump inside of my heart to the burner. You're touching on a very sore spot, because I'm a married woman who's raising a daughter. I'm a teacher, and I've looked at the whole psychosocial aspects and all these theories of raising human beings. And there are a lot of things I come from a matriarchal culture, and it doesn't make it a whole lot better than the patriarchal culture, because there's still the uncles and all that having power and so on and so forth. But also coming from a pastor's household, there's a lot of this subserviency that goes around the women, that we were basically born just to serve, to be this quiet helper that just walks around the household. And what you said about the mother telling the child that you're going to destroy my marriage. I feel like, oh, by the way, I have passed through incest and through rape. So been through those situations, through the trauma. And I feel like at the end of the day, there's this whole scenario where marriage seems to be the pinnacle of human existence. It's like it's some sort of trophy where we live our whole lives being trained to be wives or to serve men in some way or the other. And now finally, becoming a wife myself and raising a daughter, I see there's this, you can help me. I know there are a lot of strong women in this group. I feel like there's this fear of losing the men we have in our lives if we speak out. It's like we will lose something. And we might be at a disadvantage, because there's still this whole societal warmth when you're a missus and you're doing things right. There's this acceptance that we get from being subservient. And how do we address that fear? How do we speak up to the men we love? How do we walk up to them and say, to be fair, you don't treat me right? How do you address that fear? How do you move past that block?
Thank you very much for that contribution and question also that you raised at the end to ask how men treat us like that. I'm going to have Ntando, please, just 1 second, 60 seconds, say your contribution or question if you have, and then we'll have Grace and then Shamil. Because of our time, I'm just going to allow you to speak or ask or contribute for 60 seconds. So, Ntando.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I hope you all hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. I think to go back, I want to take you back to like primary level. Yes, we might say that we should treat our children like in a different way than our girl child, so that they can understand. But I think the system, also the education system, should change, because I remember seeing a grade 5 textbook which had duties to say like domestic chores. for the girl child and the boy child. And most of the girl chores, most of them, they ensured that, like, at the end of the day, if you try to assess those chores, they will just bring back the girl child to the household chores, nothing else, nothing outside the house. Because also those domestic chores included knitting, baking, cleaning the house and stuff like that. So I think at the end of the day, we should also come back to our education system and say, what's wrong with the education system? What are they teaching our children? Because no matter how much we try to teach them here with the society and the community, the education system also has an impact on how the girl child is going to be brought up. Because I remember, especially at primary level and then high school level, you see girls, they will clean the class, but boys will be told to go and water the gardens. That on its own.
So it starts from school.
That on its own also impacts the girl child to say, okay, these are my chores, these are the girls' chores. Okay, why are they different? Why don't we change the education system? We can also, because most of the times, to be honest, as parents, most of the times our children spend more time at school than they are at home. You see that from the time the child gets at grade 0 and up until they finish in high school, they spend most time at school. So the education system has more impact than what we can try to teach a child on those 2 weeks or that month. So I think the education system really be changed. And then,
all right, thank you so much, Ntando. 60 seconds is up. The education system is the one that we should change and make sure that we teach our kids certain practices from an early age. Grace, 60 seconds, and then Shamil, and then Lady Tshawe. I can see some of the contributions coming in from Karen, so we can chat there. Grace, what's your contribution? 60 seconds, we're out of time.
All right, so I'm just going to end by saying that I know that I'm a women's rights advocate and that most of us here support women's rights. And I just want to end by saying the future is not female. The future is for the competent. And so the more we divide ourselves as women, the more the main in the... My last words to every young lady, every woman out here on this platform right now is just to make sure that we unite as women, we celebrate each other as women, because it's only by doing so that we can also, rise as women and take up the positions we're supposed to take up our space in the society. So we have to stop with the prejudice, we have to stop with the body shaming, with the colorism. It's time for women to unite. If Africa is to come together, it's with us, the women, coming together and uniting. Otherwise, we're going to continue suffering in the same ways we've been suffering, because we are just too divided as men. And so we have to make sure that there is that shift in the mindset, and just make sure that we work together as women. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Grace. Shamil, 60 seconds. Yo, Shamil, wow, guys. Shamil, just fire. 60 seconds.
Thank you very much. I wanted to just humbly perhaps maybe a little bit differ with some of my colleagues who say that women are actually perpetuating the culture of patriarchy. Why I say this is because we have been victims of patriarchy ourselves since the time being. I mean, women basically, our parents, when you look at them, they were taught to basically serve a man. And therefore, some of them who unfortunately never been exposed to education and all of that, they are still holding those dear. They're still holding those principles that they were taught dear. And therefore now, because we've evolved as a people, we've evolved as as countries and even as Africa, you realize that now with education, with more exposure, with more empowerment, I believe that there's absolutely no woman who is empowered, who is in our right mind, who would just honestly sell off their child like that. If they knew better, if they can be taught better, then we will see very less cases of child marriages, less cases of genital mutilation and all of that. And so I believe that what we need to do is just to basically raise awareness on these issues, on gender issues, for people to understand. Sometimes we'll be thinking that people think they know. We think that people know. People don't know. It's amazing that a parent out there in the deeper villages where there's no radio, no network, nothing, and she's basically raising up children. She's raising them the way she was brought up, not the way community want her to bring those children up. But with more information, with more knowledge, if we teach these people that this one is wrong, yes, you were taught to do this, but if you do it like this, then you're basically violating the rights of the child. I don't think there's a parent today who would still be doing that if they knew better. And so for me, let us smash patriarchy. Let us stop being apologetic about the things about GBV, about violence against women and children. Let's not be apologetic about it. Let's stand together and truly look at this thing from where it's coming from. I'm not saying there's still no parents who are doing it because, sorry about that. Yeah. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you.
I think we should do an Instagram live and you go on because energy, girl. Thank you very much for that contribution. True, we need to fight. We continue fighting. Jasmine, I will ask Jasmine to add her contribution. Jasmine Tofa, and then Lady Tshawe.
Okay, thank you very much. Most of my contribution was just taken by the lady that spoke now. I was touched by a contribution where somebody was saying it's the women that are doing this. It's the women that are doing the body mutilation. Yes, it is, but this is what they are taught and this is what they know is right. So I think we need to find a way to bring, to make women aware and appreciate and see the reasons why they are where they are today, and their daughters, what would they like to see their daughters become, so that they then learn how to reverse those roles that they are playing now, because they don't know that what they are doing is wrong. In short, thank you.
Thank you very much, Jasmine. Lady Tshawe.
Thank you, Shamil. When I grow up, I want to be like you. Your passion is so contagious. For me, I just really want to say that it's so important that as women we teach each other and not to point the finger and say the blame. Certain, like everyone else has said, we've been raised in a certain way. Society has taught us certain things. And because we've been privileged enough to open up our minds and get access to information, our eyes are opened. We as the privileged ones, especially in this group, we ought to go share the knowledge with other people so that we actually begin to create a mindset that is for the woman, by the woman. Because the moment we start saying, but women are wrong in this and that, the previous speaker rightfully said, it's because we're taught that. As a married woman, I'm taught how to take care of my man, but no one is teaching the man to take care of the woman. But if we took it upon ourselves to constantly grind it into people's minds, but the important things for women, it will change. Definitely, society won't happen overnight, but will definitely change. And what Shamil said in a presentation about documentation, I'm so big on that. If we're able to document things, the children that we're raising right now, the generations coming after us, will have a better appreciation of females and their contribution to society. And I'm sure we'll have better positive impacts of culture to women empowerment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Lady Tshawe. I'm going to read a comment. This is from J.K. Mhlanga, who I know to be a man. It's really interesting to see that we have men in this conversation. He says, women should never be convicted for the alleged promotion of patriarchy. They have been enslaved to that extent by a society that is believed to be made for men served by women. As much as women are active participants, it's just that they are furthering an idea which has been enforced upon them. Had most of them known better, such wouldn't be the case. And Tando said, when you know better, you do better. Angela says, oh, okay, this is a a personal message. I almost read it out loud. Okay, so we've come to the end of our discussion, and I'm going to ask Duduzile Matema, who is the Wild Information and Communications Officer, to give us our vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Afternoon, Dudu. How are you?
Afternoon.
Good afternoon once again. My name is Duduzile Matema, and I work at Women's Institute for Leadership Development. And on behalf of WILD, I'd like to extend our heartfelt gratitude for each and everyone who managed to join in the meeting, to join in the Africa Regional Indaba, and for each and every input that we heard today. We're so grateful and indebted to each and every person who managed to join us today. And I'd like to extend our gratitude to Shamil Agosi from Botswana. Thank you so much for joining us today, as well as Karen Kumakanga from Malawi. Thank you so much for joining us as well. And we'd like to thank Lady Tshawe, who's representing Zimbabwe. Thank you for shining the flag so bright. We really appreciate. And we'd like to thank Grace Phiri from Zambia. We're so grateful for your contributions in today's meeting. And the last thoughts that I'd like us to have as we close comes from Kishab Chandra Mandal. A particular author wrote on female empowerment. And this is how this particular author defined female empowerment. Mandal says, female empowerment could be defined in 5 separate categories. These being social, educational, economic, political, and psychological. And based on what we're discussing today, we're discussing about the nexus that's there between culture and women's empowerment. And with what Mandal is saying, the argument is women's empowerment goes beyond just us wanting the space in leadership spaces, us wanting to be involved in decision-making processes, but it also speaks into sectors such as education. It speaks as well into sectors such as the social aspects of life. It also speaks into psychological involvement of us as women. So thank you so much to Ntie as well for moderating the session so well. And thank you to Vuyo for the magnificent performance, as well as to Jennifer for the powerful poetry that we got from her. So thank you, and happy Africa Day.
Thank you to you, Dudu, and thank you to Wild. I cannot thank them enough, as Dudu has already given us the vote of thanks. It was an interesting conversation, debate, and discussion. I think we need another one. We definitely need another one soon, where we can just have maybe a half-day retreat or something. I don't know. This is up to Wild, of course. I'm imposing. But thank you very much, ladies, gentlemen, for all your contributions and for being here with us in the comfort of your homes and workspaces. My name is Ntie Phiedarh, the African Bobby, and until next time, until our next Zoom meeting, happy Africa Day to you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Happy Africa Day to you. Bye.
I'd like for you guys to unmute. Can everyone unmute? I need to do something. Oh, people are leaving already. Can everyone unmute their mics?
Okay.
Everyone unmute. Okay. Right. At the count of 3, 2, 1. Yes.
That sounds so weak.
As women, take up space. Thank you. Goodbye. Have a lovely afternoon.
Thanks to you too. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye, ladies. Happy Africa Day.
Thank you, and same to you. Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody. It was a wonderful session. Happy Africa Day.
Happy Africa Day, ladies.